Now I've entitled this video Trust Ed. And this is an old trick. You may have already seen it. If you haven't, believe me, this will get you through a lot of exam questions. I learned this, gosh, I don't know, way back in NT4 maybe. But I had a brilliant instructor that was kind of a mentor of mine. He taught me this, and I don't know if you're listening to this, Fred, thanks a bunch. This was incredible for me, and if you can follow this, and if you'll just do this quick little trick, you can answer most of the trust type questions you get on the exam. Now let me warn you, some of the exam questions, when we get into these trust relationships, you got users here trying to get to stuff here, and you got resources, and on and on and on. A lot of these questions you may need to take your little piece of paper or your little write-on wipe-off board that they give you when you set the exam. And as they ask this question, and some of these questions will be 2 paragraphs long, just diagram it out as you read the question. They're talking about, Bob's in domain A, and Betty's in domain B, and Tom's in domain C. Just start to draw those things out. And when they say one trusts another, draw those things out. So let me show you the easy way to understand this whole trusting thing. First of all, we'll start off with just a bit of a test here. We have domain A, and there are resources in domain A. There's some files and some folders. We have domain B, and we have users in domain B. Forget about Ed for a minute. But we have users who need to access resources in A. So users need to access resources in A. So which domain is the trusting domain, and which domain is the trusted domain? Well, what do you say? Here's the answer. A is trusting B. The users in B need to get to resources in A, and notice it sounds like users need to get to resources. You would think it would go this way, but that's not the way it goes. Because what's happening here is when somebody tries to access the resource, domain A has no idea about this particular user over here in B. So what A is doing, A is trusting that this user right here has been authenticated into Active Directory, and so it is trusting domain B. It's saying, look, you're the trusted one. I trust that you have authenticated your people and everything's cool, and so now your person can access this resource. All that gets real confusing, especially when you're in a test and they're asking you all these convoluted things in the question. So here's the easy way to remember this. A is trusting, B is trusted. Just always find the users. Think of the user named Ed, and you always trust Ed. So wherever Ed is, that's the trusted domain. So always just think trust Ed. So now when you sit down on one of these exam questions and they say there's resources in domain A and users in domain C. Well, what's our user's name? Ed. We're going to trust Ed. So when we start saying who trusts who, then A has to trust C, because C is where Ed is. So always remember, trust Ed. Find the users. The user's name is Ed. Trust Ed. I don't know if that's as big deal to you as it was to me, but believe me, when you get into that exam and you're sitting there and they're asking these convoluted questions, draw that diagram, find Ed, and trust Ed. And that will get you through some very, very complex trust type questions on the exam.